or whatever it was that people were using to attack me. Bureaucrats by bypassing their ministers, which he's been doing a fair bit of, or he appoints bureaucrats to formally political positions. So his last cabinet reshuffle, he appointed 4 new ministers, 3 were retired bureaucrats.
And may I also point out that the retired bureaucrats did not seem to be put into positions relevant to their... So somebody from the Foreign Service was put in the Urban Development Ministry, somebody who knows about urban development was put in elsewhere. So it was very puzzling actually to see you're bringing in bureaucrats because of their expertise, and then you're putting them in something which they've never thought. You put something, they have to learn on the job. What's the point?
Exactly. I couldn't have put it better.
Oh, well, you should have. This is what we rely on you for, Shashi. All right, we've got about 20 minutes left, and because Shashi is not known for brief answers, I'm going to now turn to the audience and try and get beyond the back. So why don't we start with the lady in the white in the middle row there. Could you stand up, huh? Yes.
Good evening. Good evening, sir. In politics, it is the narratives that we use that, actually lays the path out for the future. So the narrative that you have used, or most people have used on Sabrimala, is the Naistika Brahmacharya. There is also the other narrative which talks about, I don't remember the name, but the tribal gods.
The Malayalayans.
Yeah. So, if you are choosing, these are all oral traditions, these are all, there is nothing documented. So, we are conveniently using the argument that fits our electoral purposes. That, to me, is a huge disappointment.
Okay, let me respond to that in a different way. I'm not going to argue with you, but let me ask you, if you believe that the ideas, the ideals, the issues that I have been working on, pushing and propagating across my 10 years in politics and in Parliament are worthy of support and worthy of perpetuation, and that therefore these ideas should be given a chance to continue being perpetuated and propagated from the parliamentary platform, would you not think it would be foolish of me to deny myself the opportunity to get those ideas across by losing an election on the issue, on any one issue, this one or any other? I mean, it's literally, until you understand the intensity of the feelings of the vast majority of your voters, you will not have, you will be able to have the luxury of an academic position. But for me, I'm talking to people every day. I mean, just last week, there were a lack of people in the Putturikandam Maidan in Thiruvananthapuram opposing women's entry, and the vast majority of them were women of the age of reproduction. And the photographs in the newspapers will tell you the story. What can we do about this? This is what people believe. They really feel that this court judgment has kicked them in the gut. It's as visceral as that. In fact, a Muslim League leader was saying to me that the only parallel he could imagine in his political lifetime was the way he and others like him felt when the Babri Masjid was destroyed. That is the intensity of feeling. Now, when I was cheerfully answering as an intellectual, I did give a different answer, the answer that would have apparently made you happy. But I'm no longer answering as an intellectual, I'm answering as a political representative who is accountable to his voters and his people to represent their concerns fairly in the public space.
Yeah, but as a political representative, as a leader in an organization, in a corporate place, I am looking to the leader to set the path. So if the leader is playing ball to constituency, knowing well that he could change the thought he could change society. He could do what Mahatma Gandhi did. He could do what, I'm sure we are nowhere near Mahatma Gandhi. I'm sure you would agree to, I hope.
That's why I shook my head.
We can definitely do a lot more than just playing ball.
Okay, thanks. Shashi, I'll let you answer that.
I do take your point, but just to say very briefly that as far as changing society is concerned, as you know, the communist government today is trying to do precisely that. They got women's organizations and others to stand together in gesture of solidarity called the Women's Wall. But the moment they said that was on this issue, most of the women, or many of the women who participated immediately denounced the wall they had stood in and said our standing had nothing to do with the wall. Had nothing to do with Shabarimala, I beg your pardon. Had to do only with the Navothan, the Renaissance of Kerala, which is what the issue was sold to us as. Not the Shabarimala issue, but the issue of the wall. So there are all of these complications. I'm afraid the politics of this are truly inextricable from the issue as they are. But I respect your point of view. And believe me, many in my family would agree with you. I'm not taking an easy way out. At the same time, by grasping the nettle, I'm doing what I consider to be the responsible thing for the larger issues that I do wish to pursue.
Just to follow up on that, Shashi, do you feel that it was impossible to stay silent if you did not agree with your constituents?
That's obviously the answer. I frankly did stay silent for a month after my initial welcoming of the judgment. But the problem is I have a conscience. And I felt that for myself, as much to explain my position to myself as to the voters, that as somebody who had constantly engaged in public reflection and debate, why do I write these political articles? It's very much to engage with people about the ideas that matter to me, that it would be hypocritical of me to stay silent. And that's why I've written just 2 pieces on this, but both fairly lengthy, in both Malayalam and English. And I did so in order to explain precisely to people of goodwill who understand that the stand I've taken is based on something, whether they disagree with that something or not. I felt I needed to lay it out as to what my thinking was.
Yeah.
Mr. Tharoor, you just mentioned that you I think, guarded yourself by saying you're a political representative here. Nevertheless, my question to you is, what is it with the Congress party and the workers earlier in the... Thank you.
A party is a political vehicle. A party is a vehicle for ideas. It is the machine through which candidates are elected. It's also an embodiment of a set of values, a kind of thinking that is right for the country. Today, essentially, we are down to a choice between 2 kinds of thinking. I would even go so far as to say the forthcoming elections is a battle for India's soul, because we have seen a fundamentally different idea of India being advocated by those close to the ruling party. And to me, therefore, there was no choice. If you believe in the kind of idea that emerged from the freedom struggle, where one set of people said that religion should be the determinant of nationhood, and that was the idea of Pakistan, and another set of people said, no, religion will not be the basis of our nation. We will be a nation of everyone and for everyone, and that was the idea of India. We now see a determined effort to smuggle in the idea of Pakistan into India. And I think that needs to be resisted. To my mind, therefore, the vehicle that is credible nationally, what do we have? We basically have the Congress on the one hand, the BJP on the other, and a whole bunch of regional parties. Even the Communist Party is basically a regional party. It could be calling itself Kerala Desam if it wanted to, because it really has no other presence anywhere else. So the question is, which side of the line do you find yourself on this big existential, moral, political question? To my mind, the only conceivable line is that of the Congress. Now, it so happens that in the Congress, the DNA of the party is inextricably linked with that of the Gandhi family. If tomorrow there were a free and fair election pitting our present Congress president against anyone you could care to name in the Congress party, I assure you he would win the election hands down amongst Congress workers. Now the point is, a party, its leadership is determined by its workers, its culture is determined by its members and its party officials and so on. And therefore, those of us who recognize that in the Congress party, if we wish to pursue certain ideals, we accept the party the way it is, then the question that you ask essentially becomes irrelevant. It's not a question we need to ask ourselves, because indeed, in the phrase that Mr. Modi's supporters love to say, there is no alternative. And in the Congress party, there is no alternative.
So I have a supplementary to that. Why is it that people, in your opinion, you seem to think of politics, therefore, as a battle of ideas,
yeah,
which is how you've just expressed it. But a large number of people, and I'm sure many of the people in the audience, seem to think of politics instead as a battle of personalities. And you may say that you're in the Congress for a battle of ideas, because it is on the right side in the battle of ideas. And others may claim that, yes, but it is permanently on the wrong side in the battle of personalities. Fix that.
Well, first of all, we don't have a presidential system. So we need to educate the voters. I mean, they're voting for an MP. They're really voting for two things. A person who will represent them in Parliament and look after their interests, the interests of their constituency. And second, through that person, helping choose a national leader or who will form the government, which party will form the government. That's what the parliamentary system does, and it's not a presidential one. To try and reduce our parliamentary system to a presidential one by saying that it's Mr. Modi versus X or Y is actually an injustice to the system we've got. Because strictly speaking, the only people in this country who get to vote for Mr. Modi are those in the constituency in which he contests, which may or may not be Varanasi. It may be now that he's got all the Pravasis to come and uphold him there. Now, having said that, there's a second argument I want to put before you, which is that in our system, there are actually two very, very contrasting styles of leadership on offer. There is the idea of the leader as a hero on a white stallion with his upraised sword, cantering down saying, I know all the answers, I'll solve all the problems, I'll cut through all the Gordian knots. And that's the idea we've been sold for the last 4.5, 5 years, and we've seen how badly that's worked out. And then there is another idea that comes on foot and not on a white horse, and that says, I don't know all the answers. Maybe I don't even know all the questions, but I will ask you what you are most troubled about, what you want me to work on, and I will come with a deep and experienced bench of qualified, able people to work with me and you to solve your problems. That is the other style of leadership. And in our system, in a parliamentary system, that's the way it's supposed to work.
All right, another question. Maybe we can go a little further at the back. Can the young gentleman in the red at the back stand?
We came into power in 2019. You also mentioned that if they get 2/3 of the majority in Rajya Sabha as well, they will go on rewriting the constitution and they will do anything to what is possible to make India Hindu Rashtra. And secondly, you said this is not the real agenda of BJP. You said that BJP will disclose the real agenda when they will get power in both the houses, Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. So we are a bit confused which one to believe.
Okay.
No. So I mean, first of all, the BJP and its supporters in the RSS and the Sangh Parivar have never denied. In fact, on the contrary, they have repeated that their agenda is eventually the creation of Hindu Rashtra. They just haven't had the numbers. Because in our system, you need both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha and half the states. Well, they've got 2/3 of the states until the December setback. And had it not been for that setback, they were on course to get an overwhelming majority in the Rajya Sabha within 4 years. So, the time that I made that argument was that had they won the 2019 Lok Sabha elections and had also had a majority in the Rajya Sabha, plus already more than half the states, there would be no impediment should they wish to turn India into something that it was never meant to be, a Hindu Rashtra. And the problem with the BJP is facing right now is they've had the setback in 3 states, which means those legislatures will not elect so many BJP MPs anymore. And secondly, that they've got their backs to the wall when it comes to the Lok Sabha elections. They did so well in 2014 that they are going to find it impossible, even in the best case scenario for them, to come close to the numbers they had last time. And therefore, it seems to me this worry is much less today than it was even 3 months or 2 months ago. But basically, their long-term objective is clearly this. And the proof of it is what I was saying earlier about Mr. Modi. You know, in American politics, there's this belief that the Republicans campaign on guns, God, and gays, the sort of cultural nationalism. And then they come to power and implement their real agenda, which is economics. Giving tax breaks to the plutocrats, helping the big multinational corporations, all of that. That's the way the Republicans play bait and switch. In India, it seems to be the opposite. Mr. Modi campaigns on economics, talks about development, and having come to power, the only people who have free reign and are flourishing are the cultural nationalists, the cow vigilantes, the Gharwapasi types, the love jihadis, all of these characters. They're the ones who have been given a free hand, whereas the ostensible agenda of economic development is nowhere to be seen. So that's the proof that the real agenda that matters is power for the sake of a majoritarian Hindutva agenda.
So we are practically out of time.
One, they got a leader who actually had been raised in the Hindutva tradition as a lifelong RSS pracharak, and secondly, they won a majority they hadn't expected to. Remember, Mr. Vajpayee led a coalition. He had 23 parties in the NDA, of whom only one, the Shiv Sena, shared its Hindutva agenda. Whereas Mr. Modi has coalition partners, but they're naam ke vaste. Even if every one of them left, as Chandrababu Naidu and the RLSP of Upendra Kushwaha have done, even if all the rest left, he still has a majority in the lower house, and therefore there was a sense of impunity which enabled them to bear their true colours. I think that was the difference between Vajpayee Sahab and Modi ji. Apart from personal temperament, inclination, Mr. Vajpayee being more of a conciliator, Mr. Modi being more of a fighter, all of this stuff, there is also the opportunity cost, as it were, of the number of seats you got in Parliament.
Thank you. We're all out of time, unfortunately, but thank you very much, Shashi, for being here and for supporting the festival as always. And thank you all for coming and braving the elements of this matter.
Signing video announcement.
Another big thanks to Shashi Tharoor and Mihir Swarup Sharma. This session was presented by Dainik Bahaskar. And Shashi unfortunately does have to dash today to another appointment.